Hello and welcome to the Slow Brown Fox Makes YouTube channel. Today's going to be our first design-focused video. I've done one video before this, a Carbide tips video on fonts. It goes over how to find, download, and install fonts, as well as the different font types, the OTF and TTF file types. So if you have any questions like that, go ahead and reference that video. It's real fast, and I think it's worth the watch. So since today is our first design, we're going to do something really simple and make it just a simple sign. I'm going to make it text only, so I'm going to need a script font because I'm going to contour cut around the actual letters and make them the entire portion of the sign. There's a script font that I really like for this application. It's called Milkshake. It's very thick, meaning it's going to have lots of strength, and in most applications the capital letters are incorporated into the lowercase. Today we're going to make a simple sign that says love you. I'm going to use all lowercase just because I like the looks of it. So apply that. We're going to make this nice and big. We're going to make it 12 inches. Now there's a little bit of a glitch in Carbide Create, which you may have just seen. Occasionally when you try to edit the size of something with the size tool, it doesn't really increase. It increases by a very small amount. It's annoying, but all you have to do is do it again, basically. So there we go. We now have our nice 1 foot type here. And now what we need to do is we need to convert this into a line, because we need to be able to manipulate it. A lot of people will type each individual word in its own text box and then line them up by hand and manipulate them into their design however they want. I like to just convert it over to a line because it gives me even more control. How you do this is you use the offset path tool. So go ahead and select that, and we bump this distance down to as low as it'll go, which is 1,000, so 0.001. And then we select the outside. If you do inside, it'll round off some of the sharper corners, and if you're doing something really big, it might not look quite right, but if you select outside, you don't have to worry about it. So our highlighted path is the path we need, so we just have to click and drag. And you'll notice a couple differences between these immediately. For one, it's essentially done a union. It doesn't have these little tails anymore. I see people online occasionally have problems with these. They'll do type and they'll do a V-carve, and it'll treat these as their own individual little tool paths, and it can screw up your font slightly, meaning you have to do a union all the time anyways. So this bypasses that step and gives us even more control. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete this type, and now we just have this. Now the other things you'll notice is this is now independent. It's its own line, and not only that is these are also their own lines. So you have to be careful when you select a word. You select all of the word. Now you can group these, but you do lose a couple small options when you do that, so I typically don't. The other thing you can do is you can now see nodes. These are now drawn up with nodes as opposed to just being text. So this allows you to do a couple things. You can obviously manipulate these, you can delete them, but you can also snap, obviously, nodes to other nodes. So if you select this line, and you highlight a node, you can click and drag it and it'll snap to either another node, or if you have snap to grid on, it can snap to grid, which is very useful. So we put that back. So now these two need to be connected because we're making a single sign. So I'm just going to overlap them slightly down here, and I'm going to grab them down here so those nodes don't snap together. And I just need a little bit of an overlap, and there we go. So now we need to clean this up, and we're going to do that 2 different ways. So I'm going to make a copy of this. I'll put that up there for now, and I'm going to make a copy of the U for the first way we're going to do this. So what we're going to do is we're going to select love, and we're going to select U. When you do that, we get all of our Boolean functions available, and the one we're going to need is subtraction. Now, something to note about subtraction is it's going to subtract one line from the other and anything that is overlapping between those. But the thing you'll notice here is one of these lines is dotted and one of them is not. The one that is dotted is the one that's going to be subtracted. So you notice the first time the U was dotted and the U was removed. Now the love is dotted, and when we subtract it, the love and what it was overlapping is removed. This always goes in order of what you select. So if nothing's selected, you control click love. That's a nice solid line. Control click U, and now that is your dotted line, meaning that is going to be subtracted. So we'll use the subtraction function. We'll delete these because we no longer need them. And now we just want to grab our copied U up here. I want to grab it one of these nodes that's going to interact with here, because that'll snap together and it'll line up correctly. So if we zoom in on this, that should be perfectly aligned. So there's our first option. Obviously, if you want to cut it out like this, you're going to need to do some sort of tricky cutting, either a no offset cut around this to define this, or mill this lower, something like that. I'm not going to go over tool paths. There's other people on YouTube that go into feeds and speeds and setting tool paths and all that kind of stuff a lot better than I could possibly do it. But I noticed that there's not a whole lot of videos specifically on how to manipulate Carbide Create. So that's sort of my goal here. So on our second sign, we're going to do a union, meaning just make this one outside piece. So no fancy cutting at all. And there's really only one thing you have to pay attention to here, and that's what's selected. When you do a union, it's going to do, from what I've noticed, just the outside lines. So if you have all this inside line stuff selected, it's going to delete that. So it did what we wanted here, but it deleted those. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this little nub. It's really just a personal preference thing. If you like the looks of that, you can leave it. But I'm going to delete it because there's one last thing that I wanted to show you. So we're going to Control Z to undo this. And now we're going to select just the U, and we're going to go into the node edit mode. We're going to Control, click and drag, select all that. We're just going to delete these nodes. Control and click, lets you select multiple. Now when you select multiple, it'll obviously delete them all together, but you can also move them all together. So I can just click and drag and pull those down below. And why we're doing that is because it's going to unionize these outside lines. Meaning all this inside here is going to get cut out. Meaning we're not going to have that little bit nub anymore. So we're going to select this, and we're going to use our union, except we're not going to do that because it'll delete our inside circles. We're going to select love, and we're going to select U, just the outside lines. And we'll use that union, and it puts those together. And so there are two different variations of the same simple sign. If you liked this video, go ahead and like and subscribe. I want to do more videos like this. Just little things Carbide Create can do, so maybe you don't have to go out and buy vCarve right off the bat. I think you can get more mileage out of Carbide Create, which is what's inspiring me to do these videos. It's a finicky program, but a pretty good one in my opinion. So if you have interest, follow me. I'm trying to post as regularly as I can, but I try to do these videos in one take, mainly because I want people to see that Carbide Create's not perfect. I don't want a really clean choreographed video because that's not realistic. Carbide Create, as much as I love it, can be annoying and it can have problems, and it is a learning process even for me as I do these. So they take a little bit of time to make, so bear with me. Anyways, thank you for watching. Enjoy.